Hi. Today's rose is a proper example of why I started these rose reviews in the first place. The rose I'm going to be talking to you about today is a modern shrub rose, actually bred by Horner in 2009, but distributed and available here in the UK through Peter Beals. This beautiful creature is Leah tutu, named after the Archbishop of Canterbury's wife. This is an absolutely stunning and beautiful rose. However, this is why I started these rose reviews in the first place. In the catalogue and on the website, this particular rose looks absolutely horrid. The pictures are dark, it's dull, the colour is brassy, very coppery, and very, very dull and not particularly exciting at all. And it's not until this particular rose came into flower here in the trial gardens at North Lodge, and I managed to see it for the very first time at the Peter Beals stand up at the Chelsea Flower Show, that I really had a huge appreciation for it. Not only for the colour being vastly different to what it's advertised in the catalogue and on the internet, but also just for the shape and form. It's incredibly interesting. So, as I say, introduced and bred by Horner, distributed through Peter Beals, this is a shrub rose, a modern shrub rose that's going to reach something in the region of about 4 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. Little disclaimer on this one, it is a little bit on the floppy side. The blooms are quite large, it's going to need a little bit of support. Peter Beals suggests you can, even with a little bit of training, create this as a low climber, so that should flag that in your head, that you need to give it a little bit of support, otherwise it's actually going to fall over. The blooms are really quite large, measuring 3.5 to 4.5 inches across, but they do vary in size. You can see this one here, a little tiny one, still perfectly in its form, but only about 2.5 inches across. But you can see the size difference there. This is one of the first blooms it's produced, and it's very, very floppy indeed. It has the most exquisitely dark emerald green foliage, very, very high gloss that you'll get with a lot of the modern roses. Very, very high gloss and very shiny, which set off these beautiful blooms absolutely perfectly. It has a varied thorn count. Some stems incredibly vicious, encrusted with thorns, which are really, really very spiky. And I know it sounds silly to talk about that with a rose, but you can see they are absolutely needle thin, laced backwards, and very, very sharp. So do be careful of these. And all I'm gonna do with these is I'm just gonna simply knock these off with my finger so I can handle this bloom without actually cutting myself and doing myself some harm. But I say Leah tutu is absolutely stunning, and what absolutely captivates me about this particular rose is its very, very different shape. If you're familiar with growing calendula in the garden, the French marigold, the old French marigold, you'll understand what I'm just about to say to you, along with chrysanthemums that have this rolled shape to the petal. This has exactly the same form, and I'm going to take this one out and show this to you right up close. You can see each petal very, very thin, only about 1 inch in thickness, as in wide, and then they roll backwards, giving you this beautiful pincushion shape to the bloom. They open completely flat, and as the bloom ages, like this one here, they slowly but surely start to peel all the way back to the actual stem itself. A very, very attractive flower, opening with a little tiny rosette in the center, little cluster of stamens in the middle there, but absolutely enchantingly, stunningly beautiful. Really, really captivated by this particular rose. It's very, very attractive. So the blooms are reaching anywhere between 3.5 to 4.5 inches across. They're born at the moment singly, but they are quite floppy, so you're going to have to give this a little bit of support. It's a healthy and vigorous rose, which is also going to be tolerant of a poorer, drier or rougher soil. So if you've got an area in the garden that you may have struggled with roses before and you've written it off, perhaps it's slightly on the dark side, a little bit of afternoon shade, for instance, and you want a splash of colour. This particular rose, colour very, very similar to Molyneux from David Austin Roses. It's really, really add a lovely pop of colour to a dark, shady space in the garden where you may have a slightly poorer soil. The fragrance on this one is also particularly good. Enjoy this greatly. It's sweet and sugary, so think of sugar syrup. And if you're familiar with growing Philadelphus or Mexican orange blossom in the garden, it's got that lovely orange blossom edge to it as well. really is very, very pleasant. So a good all-round shrub rose, reaching 4 to 4.5 feet high, a little bit on the floppy side, so you are going to have to give it some support, but a free flowering shrub rose, I say bred by Horner but distributed here in the UK through Peterbilt. A really, really beautiful and enchanting rose, which is one of the reasons why I started my rose reviews in the first place. I think very much done a little bit of a disservice on the Peterbilt's website with its marketing. The colour on this particular plant is absolutely captivating. I say, if you're familiar with my rose reviews and you've had a look through them, the colour on this one is very, very similar to that of Molyneux. It simply radiates colour and a very, very different form on the flower shape, which is absolutely captivating. I really, really do like this one greatly. So this one is Leah Tutu, available through Peterbilt's Roses.